The pressure was crushing me. At the office, everything was urgent. Every minute, a battle. Emails wouldn't stop. Meetings overlapped. Deadlines became ghosts. My head felt like it was going to explode. I felt the weight of impossible expectations, like a tight rope around my neck. The environment didn't just consume me. It seemed to devour me alive. But it was on an ordinary morning, in the middle of this chaos, that something changed. I heard a phrase that shook me, that lit a light at the end of the tunnel. You don't need to win every battle. You just need to play the right game. It was as if someone had shown me the map to get out of the maze. I wanted to understand. What game was that? How do you play it right when everything around you feels like a never-ending war? The answer led me on a journey to understand the art of strategy amid corporate chaos. And that's when I discovered that pressure didn't have to crush me. Want to know how? Stay with me. The office felt like an invisible battlefield. Impossible goals, constant changes, unrelenting demands. It was a world where the unexpected was the rule and stability, a rare luxury. Every day, I arrived before the sun rose and left after it was gone. There was no room for rest, only for survival. Amid this whirlwind, I started to feel something I could no longer ignore. A growing emptiness, a silent anxiety that ate away at my confidence. I was doing more, but feeling less. Less control, less peace. And the doubt haunted me. Was this world really for me? I saw colleagues giving up, changing jobs, losing the spark in their eyes. And me? I felt swallowed, crushed, trapped. But despite the pressure and the fear, there was a flame that hadn't gone out. A desire to understand. Not just survive, but win. That restlessness led me to seek answers beyond meetings and spreadsheets. That's when, by chance, I found an old book, a work that promised to reveal war's secrets applicable to real life. It was the beginning of a transformation. From that unbearable pressure, a new way of acting would be born. The pressure at work wasn't just external. It began to corrode me from within. It was as if, every day, my mind and body were waging a silent war. I started making mistakes I never imagined. Details that used to go unnoticed now slipped through my fingers. Wrong decisions came at critical moments. Anxiety took over, messing with my focus, clouding my clarity. My thoughts turned into a whirlwind, questions without easy answers. Can I really keep going like this? Is this world meant for me? I felt like I was breaking, not just physically, but spiritually. Pressure was an invisible enemy, attacking without warning. And the worst part, I didn't know how to fight back. Meanwhile, my environment wasn't helping. Some saw my failures as weakness, demanding even more, unaware of the inner battle I was facing. It was a moment of crisis, a breaking point. Either I adapted or I would fall apart. But it was right then that something shifted. I came across an ancient teaching, wisdom that spoke not of brute force, but of strategy. It talked about planning, about knowing the battlefield before stepping into it. And that discovery sparked something inside me. The hope that it was possible to overcome pressure without losing myself in the process. In the middle of the chaos, I found an old book, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. A treatise that, though written more than 2,000 years ago, spoke directly to my modern-day chaos. Sun Tzu didn't teach how to win by force, but through strategy. It was about knowing the terrain, the enemy, and yourself before taking action. About using intelligence, not just muscle. In that moment, an idea was born. What if I approached my work the way a general approaches battle? What if I mapped out my battlefield, identified invisible enemies, anxiety, distractions, pressure, and created a plan? While around me, the office buzzed like a battlefield, I began to see parallels. Meetings became strategies, emails, rapid-fire messages requiring precise responses. Every decision, a maneuver. Every delay, a vulnerability. And the most striking part, Sun Tzu had already said that the greatest victory is the one achieved without fighting. That the perfect war is one of anticipation, of intelligence. I began applying those principles to my daily life. Observing, planning, acting with focus. I stopped fighting every battle. I chose the ones worth fighting. And just like that, what once seemed like a chaotic environment became a board where I could play strategically, not just with brute force. With my mind focused on strategy, I started seeing my environment differently. It was no longer an invisible battlefield. It became a map I could read. I identified my hidden enemies, the triggers that sparked anxiety, the tasks that drained my energy, the people who created unnecessary noise. Each element found its place on that map. I started drawing my own route, not an escape, but a path forward. I distributed my energy more consciously, knowing when to attack and when to retreat. I noticed patterns I had never seen before. The times of day when my productivity dropped, the situations that made me more vulnerable. With this information, I created small rituals to maintain focus and manage pressure. I delegated tasks that stole my time and concentration. I learned to say no, a simple yet powerful word. Most importantly, I stopped trying to control everything. I accepted that I didn't have to win every battle, but I could choose the most strategic ones. And that's when the first signs of change appeared. My decisions became clearer, my anxiety decreased, and the feeling of suffocation began to give way to a quiet confidence. The chaos didn't disappear, but I learned how to navigate through it. The game had changed. I was no longer a prisoner of pressure. I was commanding my battlefield. With the battlefield mapped out, I began to act differently. No longer stuck in daily tasks, I started to see the whole game. I delegated what I could, trusted the team, and created rituals to stay focused. Silent hours for concentration, strategic breaks to recharge, clear boundaries to protect my time and energy. The transformation was quiet, almost invisible to outsiders. But to me, it was a revolution. I started leading without a formal title, by influencing, guiding, showing the way. My voice began to be heard, not through pressure, but through respect. Results followed. Fewer mistakes, more productivity, a less toxic environment. My anxiety, once a monster, was now an ally I knew how to control. And most importantly, I realized that leadership isn't about being in front, but knowing when to move forward and when to pull back. Strategy outweighed the operational. I was no longer fighting every battle. I was choosing the ones that truly mattered. And that changed everything. The turning point wasn't just internal. The time came for a conversation with leadership. I, who once was under pressure, became the one applying it, but in a different way. I started a guide to prepare my team to face challenges, not just to survive. The pressure, once an unbearable weight, became a tool. Now it was channeled, shared, directed, but with one crucial difference. It was no longer blind pressure without purpose. It was strategic, conscious pressure. I knew the war never ends. It never does. But I could choose how to fight. And in the role of mentor, I began helping others not to repeat my mistakes. To show that pressure, when well managed, is fuel, not destruction. The team noticed the change. Respect grew. Trust was strengthened. The team was ready. And I finally felt I was no longer alone in the battle. Pressure never fully disappears. But I learned that we don't need to fight every battle, only the ones that truly matter. Plan, choose, act with strategy. That's the real art of war at work. And you? Are you fighting nonstop, trying to control everything? Or have you started playing the right game? Wisdom lies in understanding that strength without direction is waste. That leadership is not about carrying the world alone, but knowing when and how to act. Be the general of your own battlefield. See beyond the immediate and turn pressure into power. Because in the end, victory isn't about intensity, it's about intelligence.